Hi, good morning, everyone. Am I audible to you?
Yes, good
Yes,
morning.
sir.
I'm able to.
Okay. Can you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So last 2-3 classes we discussed what are the prerequisite for AWS, what is operating system, what is networking, what is the storage, and what is the virtualization. Virtualization we didn't discuss. Okay. So I'm going to explain you what the topics I'm going to cover in AWS today class. So this course is designed for AWS solution architect, associate level. So before we start, what is AWS? You need to understand the cloud deployment models. Those are public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud. The first 2 to 3 classes are theoretical part. What is public cloud? What is private cloud? What is hybrid cloud? Next, we are going to discuss about service deployment models. Those are infrastructure as a service, PaaS, platform as a service, CaaS,
Good morning, sir.
yeah, good morning, container as a service,
Sir, one question.
yeah,
I paid yesterday fee, sir. So today is from a regular class for 30 days.
yeah, even today, tomorrow also demo classes, day after tomorrow onwards, regular.
Okay, okay, sir. Fine.
Sir, how many classes completed before?
3 classes, all these are demo sessions only. I did not start AWS.
Okay, sir.
SaaS, software as a service. FaaS, functionality as a service. Finally, this is called anything as a service. In cloud, any cloud computing, either AWS cloud, Azure cloud, GCP cloud, any cloud computing Everything is a service. Everything is a service. They are the service deployment models. So this course is helpful for service deployment models. So there are so many services. There are so many services, but what are the services that follow under this category? One is EC2 service. EC2 stands Elastic Cloud Computing. EC2 stands Elastic Cloud Computing. I think in the first class we discussed about what is the meaning of compute capacity. What is the meaning of compute capacity? My laptop compute capacity is my laptop compute capacity is 16 GB RAM, 1 processor, 8 GB RAM, 1 processor. All the laptop desktops are only 1 CPU. Maybe you have 4 GB RAM, 8 GB RAM, 16 GB RAM, 16 GB is max. So that is called compute capacity. What is compute capacity? A CPU and RAM we call as a compute capacity. So Elastic Cloud Computing. Generally, we discuss in the first demo class, if it is Windows, we call it as a computer name. The system name we call as a computer name. If it is Windows, system name we call as a computer name. If it is Unix, system name we call as a host name. If it is Unix or Linux, system name we call as a host name. So generally, either physical data center or cloud data center. Data center which contains the infrastructure, a servers, switches, routers, all the infrastructure in the data center. So the physical data center, cloud data center, they're going to maintain same infrastructure. The virtualization is introduced year 2010. Before 2010, there was no virtualization concept. So from physical server, later we'll discuss what is this virtualization, how it works. So there is a physical server. From physical server, we are going to create virtual machine. This is called VM. VM stands virtual machine. Here, in my lab, all these are VMs, virtual machine. How many OS I install? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I installed 12 operating systems in a single laptop or desktop. How it is possible? That is called a VMware virtualization. This is called the virtualization. So nowadays, all the applications, all the servers are virtual machine. But to create a virtual machine, we need a physical server. Without a physical server, there is no VM. There is no virtual machine. So this virtual machine in AWS, we call it as an instance. We call it as an instance. Instance, nothing but VM. VM, nothing but a physical server. VM is nothing but a physical server. So don't get confused. Instance is different. Physical server is different. Instance, nothing but a physical server. So here we call it as an instance. So Elastic Cloud Computing means what? Online, I can increase my processor. I can increase the RAM. I can increase the CPU. That is called Elastic Cloud Computing. So this topic we'll discuss later. We have a concept called auto scaling, vertical scaling, horizontal scaling. That we'll discuss what is this horizontal, what is this vertical. So there are so many types of instances. We have spot instance. Reserved instance. On-demand instance. Capacity reservation. Throughout AWS course, we are going to discuss on-demand instance. So when we have to use on-demand instance, when you have to use spot instance, when you have to use reserved, we'll discuss when discussing EC2. Next, we are going to discuss about instance types. I told you that instance nothing but a server. How many types of servers we have? Memory optimized. CPU optimized. General purpose. Graviton instance. S-related instance. This S-related instance mainly used for machine learning. These are the types of instances. So while discussing EC2, we are going to discuss when you have to use memory optimize, when you have to use CPU optimize, when you have to use general purpose. All these types we'll discuss later. So as a solution architect, we should be perfect to give the solution to the client when they're asking that launch one server, launch an instance. You need to tell that, you need to understand that what type of instance they require. For what application you have to take memory optimize. For what application you have to take CPU optimize. All this stuff we'll discuss in the class. AMI stands Amazon Machine Image. In this AMI topic, we are going to discuss how to create the images of running instances. Nothing but a snapshot. Image nothing but a snapshot. So how to create the image of running instances? How to take the backup? How to restore that? Backup and restore. Copying AMI from one region to another region. Migrating AMI from one user account, from one account to another account. One account to another account. All this stuff we'll discuss in AMI. Next, security group. Basically, security group is a firewall. What type of firewall? It's a virtual firewall. It's a virtual firewall. Here we have English firewall, egress firewall. What are the differences? When you have to, what is English? What is egress? What is stateful firewall? What is stateless firewall? And the limitations of security group. Limitations of security group. In Linux administration, we have a concept called IP tables, IP6 tables. It is also a firewall. Which network you want to deny, which network you want to allow, which network you want to deny, which ports you want to allow, which ports you want to deny. That is called as a firewall. So Linux operating system, we have a firewall, IP tables, IP6 tables, and the recent latest version, we have firewall. So this is OS level firewalls. Similarly, here we have a security group. Here we have a security group. What is the difference? The difference is Linux, everything is command line. You have to configure firewall. Configure firewall, everything is command line. But here, everything is graphical mode. There is the only difference. And what is TCP? What is UDP? You need to understand to configure, before you configure firewall, you need to understand what is TCP, what is UDP, what are the differences. And also you need to understand OSI layers. Without understanding these OSI layers, you can't able to understand how to configure firewall. Without understanding OSI layer, we can't understand how to configure firewall. So OSI layers are very, very important. If anyone having BTech, computer science, electronic background, they know what is this OSI. But who don't have that background also, we are going to start from the scratch. No worry about that. We'll start from the scratch. What is OSI model? What is IP addressing? What is subnet? What is class A? What is class B? What is class C? What is public IP address? What is private IP address? Everything we'll discuss from the scratch. Load balance, which is very, very important in AWS. In real time, all applications, databases, which are running with load balancer. Without this load balancer knowledge, you can't able to work. One is ALB, application load balancer. NLB, network load balancer. CLB, classic load balancer. The other types of load balancers. Where we have to use application load balancer, where we have to use network load balancer, where we have to use classic load balancer. I think last class we discussed about clustering. How the cluster will work, what is failover, what is the parallel or load balancer, and what is a hybrid. I just explained briefly what is cluster, how it works. So that cluster here we call as a load balancer. So we have Veritas cluster, Sun cluster, IBM cluster, Windows cluster. I have experience on Veritas cluster and cluster and Sun cluster and Sun Solaris. So we used to set up that in Sun Solaris, Sun cluster, Veritas cluster, we used to set up that command line. Everything is a command line. But in AWS, everything is automation. You just need a concept. You don't need to understand what are the commands you have to use, what are the configuration files. No need to understand that because everything is graphical mode. If you understand the concept, you understand the practical. RDS, Relational Database Service. Ten years back when there was no cloud, 10 years back when there was no cloud, there is separate team for database. OS team separate, database team separate. The job of OS team, Linux administrator, Unix administrator, you have to install the operating system, you have to create the partition for that for database. If it is Oracle database, we require 80 GB space. If it is apps database, we require 100 GB space. Hadoop database, we require 500 GB space. As a Linux administrator, your job is you have to create the partition. The partition Linux we call as a file system. Create the file system with 100 GB, 200 GB, 500 GB formatting and give it to the database administrator. Then the database administrator will install the database in that 500 GB. So in database level, in OS level, we are creating the partitions. At database level, they're going to create the database. In OS level, we are creating users. Database level, they're going to create the users at database level. OS level, we are taking the backup. They're going to take the database backup at database level. So we have separate team for OS, separate team for database. But once you learn AWS, you need to learn how to install the database, how database will work, how to tune the database. Tuning the database is also very, very important. Tuning the database is not by the OS administrator, tuning the database by database admin. But in RDS, we are going to discuss how to install this database, how to tune the database. Everything is graphical mode. I told you in the first class, if you learn AWS, you are the network admin, you are the database admin, you are the storage admin, you are the OS admin, you are the security admin. So rather than learning separately security admin like network like CCNA, CCNP, instead of learning storage, SAN, NAS, instead of learning database, if you learn AWS, will replace everything. So one cloud admin can do all the tasks, all the activities, database activities, network activities, firewall configuration, OS administration. That's why the cloud has a lot of demand. Here we are going to discuss about MySQL and Aurora DB. We have so many databases like MS SQL for Microsoft, Oracle from Oracle database from Oracle, Sybase database, Informix database, PostgreSQL database, MySQL database. Why we are using MySQL database? Because MySQL database is free of cost. It is open source. What is open source? We can install on any Unix family. MS SQL, Microsoft SQL only for Windows family. We cannot install on Linux or Unix. Whereas MySQL we can install any Unix family and it is open source. Aura DB is a database from AWS. AWS proprietary database that is called Aurora DB. Here we are going to discuss how to take the backup of databases, how to restore it, how to create the snapshot. All this stuff we'll discuss in the RDS. That means what? If the company using AWS, if application running on AWS, they don't need to recruit separate database administrator. No need to recruit separate storage admin. No need to take separate security. So whatever the database level, the database administration is doing database level, everything we can do in RDS. So there are two types of databases. One is SQL database. The other one is non-SQL database. Whatever database we discussed earlier, MS SQL, MySQL, Aurora DB, Oracle, Sybase, Informis, Postgres database. All these are SQL database. But there are some non-SQL database. They are also called NoSQL database. Those are DynamoDB. Already, not only DynamoDB, there are so many other databases like Cassandra, DynamoDB. There are so many other databases. So we are going to discuss DynamoDB, which is the proprietary of AWS. Where we use SQL databases, where we use NoSQL databases, we'll discuss in RDS. And very, very important topic that is called scaling mechanism. That is called auto scaling. Auto scaling is very, very important topic in AWS. All the application database which runs on auto scaling, load balancer, auto scaling, both are very, very important. If you understand what is load balancer, you can understand what is auto scaling, how it works. Here we have two types: vertical and horizontal. Vertical we also call elasticity. Horizontal we also call scalability. Both are not same. Elasticity is different, scalability is different. On running server, when RAM is not sufficient, memory is not sufficient, you want to increase the memory slot, you want to increase the memory, add the CPU. Any hardware component you want to add on running server without any downtime, that is called elasticity. Horizontal. Horizontal means what? Adding more servers in the network when the application demands. Adding more servers in the network when application demand, that is called scalability. Horizontal. This is called vertical. So what is this vertical? What is horizontal? In detail, we discuss in auto scaling how it works. Auto scaling requires load balancer. If you understand this load balancer, you can understand auto scaling concept and configuration part. Storage mechanism. In storage, we are going to discuss about EBS, elastic block storage. EFS, elastic file system. S3, S3 service, simple storage service. All this comes under storage. So last time we discussed about what is SAN, what is NAS, what is a DAS, direct data storage. So when there was no AWS, we have separate team called storage team. That is SAN, NAS, DAS, separate storage team. But if you learn AWS, we don't require separate storage team, separate storage admin. AWS Cloud admin can add the storage, can remove the storage, can increase the storage online without any downtime. And IAM, identity access management, which is most important. So we are not, basically we people are cloud admin. We are not developers, we are not programmers. We are the cloud admin. Either Windows admin, Linux admin, database admin, any kind of administration technologies or any kind of administration courses, you need to understand how to create the groups, how to create the users, how to create the policies, creation of users, creation of groups, creation of policies. Identity providers, SSO, single sign-on, MFA, multi-factor authentication, and programmatic access. All these topics we are going to discuss in IAM, which is very, very important. Windows admin required this topic. Linux admin required this topic. Database admin also required this topic. So because AWS also cloud admin, need to understand how to create these users, how to create the groups, how to create the policies. I'm going to close this window. If you want to take the snap, you can take the snap. Take the photo. Here we'll provide the videos, running notes and videos once you register. Shall I close this window? Okay. Next, about CDN. CDN stands content delivery network. EKS, Elastic, Kubernetes service. In DevOps also we have Kubernetes, ECR, Elastic Container, repository. Then we are going to discuss about Lambda. And some tools on AWS DevOps. That is called code commit, code deploy, code pipeline. EBS stands Elastic Beam Stack. This is called level 1. In level 1, we are going to discuss all these topics, which is the 40 hours duration, the duration of this level 1, the 45 hours. Level 2, all these are network related. Which is VPC, Virtual Private Cloud, which is the hardcore of your AWS. Which is the hardcore of your AWS. VPC peering, NACL, Network Access Control List. CGW, Customer Gateway. Site-to-site gateway. VPGW, Virtual Private Gateway. And finally, KMS, Key Management Services. WAF, Web Access Firewall. And CloudTrail and CloudFront. There comes in a level 2, which is 15 hours duration. The total duration of this course takes minimum 2 months. Start from the scratch, start from the Linux fundamentals, Linux basics. Linux basics is very, very important, which is mandatory to learn AWS. And apart from the Linux fundamentals, we are going to discuss about few topics on Linux administration. I'm not going to discuss everything. These are installation, disk management, user admin, RPM, telnet, SSH, SCP, WinSCP. These are the topics which are mandatory to learn AWS. It is not a mandatory, but if you have knowledge on this, you can understand what you are doing in the real time. You want to copy the data from Windows to Linux. Where the Linux servers are? The Linux servers are in the cloud. How do you copy that? We have a command called WinSCP. We can copy the data from Windows to Linux, the Linux server in the cloud, or we can copy the data from Linux server to laptop, desktop by using WinSCP. SCP secured copy to copy the files from one server to another server. When both are Linux or both are Unix. When both the servers are Unix, we go for SCP. When servers are Linux, clients are Windows. In the demo class I think 2 days back, we discussed about what is homogeneous, what is heterogeneous. If you're working on Microsoft family, server is Windows, client also Windows, that is called homogeneous. When the client is Unix, server also Unix, also called homogeneous. But real time, we are going to work only in heterogeneous environment. Heterogeneous means all the servers are Unix, all the clients are Windows, all the servers are Linux. In the real time, the servers always Linux, clients always Windows, laptop is Windows, desktop is Windows. So how do you copy the data from a laptop to Linux server? How do you copy the data from Linux server to my laptop? Further, we go for WinSCP. How do we connect to the Linux server? You have laptop or desktop where Windows is installed. When these servers are remotely located, either physical data center or a cloud data center, how you are going to connect to the servers on internet, either through SSH or telnet. Where we use telnet, where we use SSH, we'll discuss later. So tomorrow somebody asks to install the Java or a Python on the Linux server, the server in AWS cloud. Then you need to understand how to install the packages. That is called RPM, Red Hat Package Manager. How to install the packages using RPM command, yum command. As I told you that a cloud admin is a OS administrator, is a network administrator, is a storage administrator, is a database administrator, is a security admin. So you need to understand how to install these packages, how to verify the packages, how to uninstall the packages, how to upgrade the packages, how to query the package for a file. All this stuff we'll discuss in RPM and user administration. In AWS cloud, we discuss about IAM. But you want to log into the Linux server, the server in AWS cloud, you need to understand how to create the users at OS level. IAM is at cloud, AWS cloud. But the Linux server is, you're going to log into the Linux server from Windows client. You need to understand how to create the users at OS level. What are the groups, what is user creation, what is pseudo user. All this stuff we'll discuss in user administration. The disk management is very, very important. If somebody asks you to install the database on the server in AWS cloud, So before install the database, we have to create the partition. We have to create the file system. So how to create the file system, how to mount the file system, how to format the file system, everything we'll discuss in disk management. Installation part, in fact, we don't require for AWS admin. Then why we are discussing installation part? Because sometimes you might be working on physical server. You might be working on physical server. You need to understand how to install the OS. So basically, I suggest my students to learn AWS with Linux administration. AWS with Linux administration. So as a cloud admin, you need to understand the full-fledged Linux administration course, which is what is LVM, Logical Volume Manager, what is FTP, what is NFS, what is DNS, what is DHCP, what is Apache Web Server. So I suggest my students to learn Linux administration also to become full-fledged AWS cloud admin. But you don't, even if you're not learning this Linux admin also, no problem. You can work on AWS with this knowledge. The advantage of learning Linux admin, because some applications are running on physical data center. Some are running on cloud data center. If you mention AWS Linux admin in a resume, you are eligible for both physical data center, cloud data center. If you mention only AWS, the resume can shortlist only if the application running on the cloud data center. If you mention resume only Linux admin, they'll take Linux administrator as a physical data center. You are not eligible for cloud data center. If you learn both, you are eligible for physical data center and cloud data center as well. So we have separate batches for Linux admin also. If you want, you can join, but it's not a mandatory to learn AWS. Which are mandatory, I'm going to cover Linux basics itself. It is enough to learn AWS. Any questions, guys?
So now, like what real AWS architect will be job? Like how is the difference from AWS DevOps?
AWS and DevOps.
Yeah.
Okay. See, AWS is the technology. Azure is the technology. GCP is the technology. Linux admin is a technology. Windows is a technology. Python is a technology. Java is a technology. But DevOps not a technology. DevOps is a methodology. So, what is this methodology? Methodology nothing but before DevOps we used to call that as software development life cycle. Software development life cycle. So any application before deploy to the deployment server, the developer write the code. The code need to be tested. Basically, most of the people they think that DevOps is a new one. DevOps is not a new one. When was IT started? I think the link going to be disconnected within 6 minutes. Okay. So before DevOps started, like when IT was started, 1983. When IT was started 1983, we used to call a separate team called build and release. We have a separate team called build and release. So the developer read the code that is called the source code. After writing the source code, that source code need to be built. That source code need to be built. Build nothing but convert into package. Convert into package. Package format. For example, WhatsApp is a package. Truecaller is a package. What's the meaning of package? Group of files and directories. When we install the WhatsApp app from the Play Store, it is going to extract so many files, so many directories. That is called as a package. So convert the code into source code into build into package. After build into package, then we are going to release the package. Release nothing but this software, this application is available on internet. This was earlier days when IT was started. In 1993-94, I think, they introduced testing tools, automation and manual. So before we build the package, the code need to be tested. That is called testing. Before build the package, the code need to be tested. After testing the code, then we going to build the code. After build the code, then we are going to deploy the code. This is called as a software development life cycle. So it is not a technology. It is not a technology, it's a methodology. So DevOps also a methodology. Here we are doing everything is manual. Everything is manual. DevOps, everything we are doing automation. So here, what is DevOps? D stands development, O stands operation. Development team, operation team work together as a single team. That is the whole concept of DevOps. Here, development team doesn't know what the build team is doing. Development team doesn't know what testing is doing. Development team doesn't know how to deploy the code or application. Deployment team doesn't know how to test it. What is testing? Build team doesn't know how to write the code. There is a gap between the development team and operation team. There is no IT company without development team and operation team. So DevOps, advanced DevOps, why they introduced DevOps? Because to reduce the gap between the development team and operation team. So both are working together as a single team. That is called as a CI/CD. CI/CD stands continuous integration, continuous delivery. So DevOps is the methodology. Maybe the programmer they're using Java, .NET or Python, but we have to follow the same methodology. You are taking the server either from AWS or Azure or GCP, but you have to follow the same methodology. Maybe the application running on Linux or Windows, you have to follow the same technology. Maybe the application they're written on C or C++ or Java, .NET or Python, you have to follow the same methodology. So technology based job, methodology based job. All the projects not running on AWS. If you learn AWS and upload the resume to the Monster or Naukri, resume gets shortlist where the company using AWS cloud, their only resume gets shortlist. Where they're using Azure cloud, you learn Azure, list shortlist only for those companies where they're using Azure. If you learn Linux admin, the resume gets shortlist where they're using the companies who are using Linux. All these are technology based job, but every company has to follow the same DevOps methodology. There's no IT company without DevOps. Starting from level 1 to level 5, all the companies has to follow, they're using DevOps. Without this DevOps, there is no IT company. Without development team, without operation team, there is no IT company. So that's why we have a demand AWS with DevOps, Azure with DevOps, GCP with DevOps. So DevOps course is 2.5 months course. We are going to cover all the tools with real time. So don't stop. If you want to go for best package, you want to settle in a IT company, don't stop only with AWS. Learn DevOps also. Today the market is for AWS, but tomorrow, after 1-2 years, maybe Azure will come in the first position or in demand. Then you have to learn Azure also. After 1-2 years, GCP, you have to learn GCP also. So in case of technology, you have to keep on learning the technologies one by one. Instead of that, if you learn methodology, no need to learn any other technology later. So if you want, I'll take DevOps demo one day once you complete AWS. Okay, guys. Any questions?
Hello.
Yeah, we'll be discussing the practical. I'll give the exercise assessment every Saturday. While coming to the class on Monday, you have to do it.
Sir, I want to know what is the job profile of AWS and how will we perform practical or this is
See, the first and foremost thing is tomorrow we are going to discuss how to create the account in AWS.
yes, sir.
If you create the account in AWS, everything we are going to do the practicals in the cloud itself, AWS console. So we have nothing to do at the laptop or desktop. Everything we are doing in the cloud itself.
Okay.
If your laptop having 2 GB, 4 GB RAM, that is more than enough, because we have nothing to do with the laptop. Everything you are doing in the AWS.
Yes, sir.
So tomorrow there is a class for how to create the account in AWS. Any questions?
Are we going to discuss both AWS and DevOps in our whole class?
In your
duration?
curriculum, only AWS and some topics on Linux. Linux admin is separate course, DevOps is separate course. Linux admin is a 40 hours, DevOps is the 80 hours. The separate courses. Even in DevOps also, I'm going to cover these topics only, not the full-fledged Linux admin. DevOps also require these topics. So these topics are sufficient to learn AWS, to learn DevOps.
Ideally, which one is good to learn first, DevOps or AWS?
AWS, the AWS with Linux. This is the mandatory for AWS, mandatory for DevOps.
Okay. So 2 month duration for AWS and how? And
2 month duration for AWS and 2.5 month duration for DevOps.
This course mainly poses for AWS architect positions.
Solution architect. It is for solution architect. Once you complete the course, you can keep minimum 4 to 5 years experience also. That much of stuff I'm going to provide you with real-time scenarios.
Okay, thanks. Sir, after ending of this course, we'll get like in AWS, we have to make different level of certifications. So if you give guidelines on that, it will be.
Should I give the guidelines? And there are some people out there, they are going to write the certification behalf of the student. They'll charge 5,000 extra, I think. They'll write the certification behalf of the student. Because for cleaning certification, at least you have to spend minimum, after completion of the course, you have to spend minimum 3 to 6 months on that. You won't write the certification by yourself. You have to spend 6 months on that. Unless you can give to the 5,000 extra, they'll write the certification behalf of you.
Okay.
The certification is not a mandatory because you're keeping the experience. They'll see only experience, not the certification. Certification is an added advantage. Of course, it's added advantage. You can add the certification later also once you get a job. But certification always add advantage.
Sir, is it necessary to learn full Linux course to add in AWS plus Linux?
That's what I'm telling you. If you learn AWS, you have a resume shortlist only for cloud data center, not the physical data center. Any company, they have their own physical data center, they have their own cloud data centers. Some are running on physical, some are running on cloud. If you learn AWS, resume gets shortlist only the projects application running on the cloud data center. If you learn both, a resume gets shortlist on both physical and cloud. See, I'm not teaching you Java, Python, something else which are not related to the AWS. So Linux admin is a administration course. Cloud also admin. AWS cloud admin is a Linux admin. So both are relevant courses, related courses. So learning Linux administration is also added advantage. So we have a separate batch. We are going to start evening at 6:30 for AWS and Linux admin as a package. You can take that both the courses as a package.
Starting from
Hmm?
that batch, starting from
Starting maybe next week. Even if you can join in this batch also, AWS Linux admin. After AWS, we're going to cover Linux admin in depth.
okay.
After complete this course, we can join also that Linux admin also.
You can join.
Okay.
After completion of this AWS also, you can join for Linux admin. No problem.
In this course, like AWS, any configuration for REST API, so it's for like a application development.
I'm sorry.
Like like suppose mobile application required REST APIs, right? Service. So in AWS, any you teaching anywhere for REST API configuration in the AWS side?
No. Okay, see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last class for a demo. So please register by tomorrow and you can get the recorded videos and soft copies as well.
Sir, I paid the fees. I want the soft copies or video. How can I look
Tomorrow I'll send you.
Okay.
Tomorrow is the last day for demo. No, day after tomorrow I'll send you.
Okay.
Whoever registered for them, I'll give my WhatsApp number. I'll share in WhatsApp.
Yes.
Okay.